George Marsh, Keziah Sterling, Anthony Georgie, players like that are all now heading out on loan, which means the under-23s is now a really young bunch. They're far younger team. So a lot of those under-18s are now having to quickly step up into the under-23s, which is sounds silly because it's all, in your mind it's all academy football, but it's a big jump. It is. Even Troy Parrott, everyone calling for him to go straight into the first team. When he was playing for the under-23s, when he stepped up last season, and he wasn't actually doing the business. It's only this season, the next one, he's actually kind of got to grips with it a bit more. I think they're fine. I think it's going to be a big loss, John McDermott going. 15 years at the club, really was a big, powerful figure inside the club in terms of developing a lot of young players all the way back to like Ryan Mason. And he was also developing them as coaches, Ryan Mason included in that as well. Ledley King, he'd worked with as a young, trying to bring him along as a coach. Matty Taylor now in charge of the under-18s, Wayne Burnett, the under-23s. Who they pick to replace John McDermott is going to be an enormous decision, and I think that will have a big impact on what we see going forward. But yeah, no, they're doing fine. I think the under-23s, like I say, have struggled a little bit, but I think, as I said, Wayne Burnett's had a really young team to pick from, which hasn't helped when you're playing against sides that maybe have a sprinkling of 19, 20, 21-year-olds, as much as up to 23, whereas Spurs have been, some teams, sometimes 16, 17, 18-year-olds at the most. So yeah, no, they're doing fine. I wouldn't worry about them too much. GN asks, why did we loan out Carl Walker-Peters when we needed a right back? That was pretty much down to Carl Walker-Peters. He wasn't playing. Pochettino wasn't playing him. Mourinho wasn't playing him. He wanted to go and play football. And there was interest in him. Palace and Southampton both wanted him. I think Brighton maybe were looking at him as well. And ultimately, it just wasn't fair to him. We've been saying for seasons, years, poor kid, just let him play football, whether it's here or on loan, let him do it. And he got that, and I think they were confident that Tanganga could fill in as a backup for Aurier as well. And you had Dyer and Alderweireld who could play there at a push as well. So that was why he was allowed to go. I hope, he gets back to playing some football when this is all finished and that he can, I think it was a massive step for him. I think he really needed it as well. I still think he's a player that could do things for Tottenham if he gets the chance. And it's a big if. Right, we're into the home stretch now, just 5 left. Kevin Moran asked, do you think it's that Tanguy Ndombele can't run or that he won't run? That's a good question. I see what you're getting there. I think fitness is a big issue. I think they wouldn't have put him on this global training program if it wasn't. Sorting out his nutrition. This is a label that has been stuck on Ndombele since he was younger. I remember there was a big thing about one of his French clubs when he was a kid kicked him out for being, well, not kicked him out, but he didn't progress there because he wasn't fit enough and his attitude wasn't right. He had a brilliant season, didn't he, at Lyon last year? Played, I think it was around 50 games or so. So he can do it. I think there's been a bit of disappointment in that when you're coming to another step up and you're playing in the Premier League, it's going to be a fast and physical league. I've said this before, but people remember I interviewed him out in Singapore it was, and when I asked him about Pochettino's pre-season, it was like the only words he said in English because he was using Sissoko as a translator, and he turned to me and just went, very hard about Pochettino's training session. I think this has been a real shock to his system, and I think his body has responded by getting lots of niggling little injuries, specifically that hip one that's causing him problems. I do wonder whether we're going to get to the end of the season, a bit like Trippier, and I think Davies has had in the past, we find out they've had an injury that they've been kind of struggling with all season. So I'm going to say at the moment it's more to do with can't run rather than won't run. If it's won't run, then he's got no excuses whatsoever. Joshua Thunberg asks, if everyone's fit, how do you see us lining up? I'm going to cop out slightly on that one because I have done an article on that, and it kind of explains it. I think if I go into it now and exactly who my lineup is, people will just be like, oh, why have you left him out? Why have you left that? Whereas there's an article on the website. I'll dig it out and try and find it for you, and I'll stick it in the comments if I can later. I think I left... Who did I leave out? It was quite controversial. I think I left Dele Alli out. But that was purely because of the system. But it's all explained. This is what I mean. So I'm getting into something I don't need to. Sven524 asks, what has happened to Dele Alli and Eric Dyer's disciplinary matters? The FA tell us that's still all ongoing. Apparently all the current stuff hasn't stopped all of that. They're still looking into all matters. I think it's probably more a case of it's a little bit insensitive to probably do stuff about that right now, especially when football isn't returning for months. So keep an eye on that. It still will, things will happen, whether good or bad. Joe asks, what's your take on the way Mourinho plays Kane, a bit like a battering ram, like Drogba style? Yeah, I'm not a massive fan. I do get it. He's had a player like this at every club. Do I feel that Kane's body can put up with that? No, I don't. I think that's probably played its part. Obviously, he's very physical. Having this out ball of the direct ball up front, I think it's put more pressure on Kane to do that. And I quite like Kane when he drops back a little bit deeper and plays as a playmaker / striker. He's, for me, one of the best passers you'll find in the final third, and he's a striker. So yeah, I don't think that's done him any favours. It's not my favourite kind of way of using Kane. I don't think you get the best out of him either. And Richard Lee's a final question. What's your opinion on Davinson Sanchez and Eric Lamela? And he says Eric Lamela's goals per game ratio is abysmal. All right, we'll start with Sanchez. Sanchez, again, another one. There seems to be a lot of players, young players especially, that Spurs fans, and this is the same at all football clubs, have just seemed to have got on the back of. I feel Sanchez maybe raised expectations, had a really good first season, and I thought he was superb in that first season. I think the second season he was a bit more in and out because Alderweireld was back in the team, and he had his own kind of little niggling injury to deal with. I think there's a player, I think against top opposition, I think Davinson Sanchez is magnificent. If you look back at some of the games, especially I remember Real Madrid in the Champions League, absolutely did a job on Cristiano Ronaldo. And certain games this season, I think, I'm trying to remember back, was it Liverpool? Maybe Man City? He's had some really big games. I think his biggest issues come when he plays perceived smaller sides, when there's maybe an air of overconfidence. Sometimes he'll go into challenges thinking he's using his strength and actually mucks it up. I think we know technically he's not as confident in his ability as others. It's something Mourinho, we know, preyed upon back when he was at Ajax and Mourinho was in charge of Man United in the Europa League final. But I think there's a really good player in there. And I think Mourinho likes him. I get the sense he does. I think he just knows there's a lot to work on with him. And we've got to remember how young these players are. I think he's 23, isn't he? Sanchez is still so young, especially for a central defender. So give him time. I think he'll be very good. Eric Lamela, I like Eric Lamela. I'm not going to hide that fact. I think he's a really good player when you can get him fit, and that's the big if about him. Obviously, it's the associated fitness problems with that. 13 months out with hip problems. From then on, he's had to kind of change the way he trains. Sometimes, and Mourinho said it himself when I've asked him about it. He said, he's so worried about every little kind of pain he feels in his body because he thinks it could be, the worst thing, because he thought he was going to end his career. That hip injury was at times. I disagree on the goal to game being abysmal. I get what you're saying maybe on goals from him, but I've looked at this because I did a piece not too long ago. If you look at his goals and assists per game, it's a totally different thing. He's a little bit under having a goal, contributing directly to a goal in an assist or scoring every other game. It's a very, very good record. The biggest problem with him is just getting him out on that pitch. He loves Tottenham Hotspur, absolutely loves the club so much. And they've been very good to him. They've seen him through a lot of tough stuff. And I think he, in turn, has provided and turned up when he's been there. It's just about getting him on that pitch. That's the biggest thing for him. Right, so that's it finished. We've got through all 31 of them. Thank you so much for your questions. We could probably try another one of these again, so whack your questions underneath in the comments if you like. And we'll try and do this in another week or so's time. We're going to have a few weeks of football returns, so we've got to keep talking. Latest news that just kind of happened before I started this video. Son Heung-min's gone back to South Korea to be back home for personal reasons. Steven Bergwijn's gone back to the Netherlands because he's about to become a dad for the first time. So they've been given permission by the club both to go back to their homelands. Otherwise, the players start tomorrow, Monday, doing their group video sessions with Mourinho and his coaches. They're going to kind of trying to guide them through training in a way as a group, although they'll be doing it individually, whether it be in their house or a garden, a presumed garden. It becomes more difficult if you're not. Be interesting to see how that works. So I'm going to kind of talk to the club more about that in the days to come. Apologise for the length of this video. It has been a long one, but I was answering all of your questions. It's not my fault. Hopefully there's some interesting stuff in there and not too much waffle. And most of all, just stay healthy and safe, everyone. And I will catch you later. We shall talk again. Football will return. Don't worry. It will be there. But right now, there's obviously more important things in life. And I hope you all stay healthy and safe. Catch you later.